Well, here is what the president had to say about this senseless murder.
By a madman, a lunatic, just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
And the president posted this after watching the horrific video. He said the perpetrator was a well-known career criminal who had been previously arrested and released on cashless bail in January a total of 14 times. What the hell was he doing riding the train and walking the streets? Criminals like this need to be locked up. The blood of this innocent woman can literally be seen dripping from the killer's knife, and now her blood is on the hands of the Democrats who refuse to put bad people in jail, including former disgraced governor and wannabe Senator Roy Cooper. Kosha, the president only learned of this crime fairly late in proceedings, a full day, perhaps a couple of days after it was trending on social media. There's been some criticism that his inner circle is not making him sufficiently informed of these events, and if he's not seeing it on the mainstream media, then he could miss this.
One certainly wonders, and I think the incident itself occurred towards the end of August, so it only went viral a couple weeks later because, as we discussed, the media was not covering it, and somehow that footage got out.
That footage came out,
and it exploded, and then, yes, he got it on delay. He does, in a way, even though President Trump really understands media, and it's fascinating as a 79-year-old how plugged in he is to social media, he does still enjoy television. He's always talking about how he watches the shows and watches TV. So he possibly does have a blind spot or a gap there, and whether it's Barron or somebody younger needs to have like,
we
that
need to bring Barron back into the administration, because we know he was giving him advice during the campaign, because he is a cable news watcher. That's where he looks, whether it's CNN or Fox News, and things that are really trending on X or other social media sites, I think, are in a bit of a blind spot, and he relies on others to tell him. And this one he learnt about, I would argue, much later than he should have. Now, the mayor of Charlotte, where this young woman was murdered by a recidivist criminal, has released a statement. Mayor Lyles, the Democrat who took a knee for George Floyd and BLM, wrote, "This is a tragic situation that sheds lights on problems with society's safety nets related to mental health care and the systems that should be in place." She also said the murderer, DeCarlos Brown Jr., appears to have suffered a crisis, and she added she is not villainising those who struggle with their mental health or those who are unhoused. Kosha, it's interesting that in her efforts to be so compassionate to the killer, she comes off as so cold and callous and a little bit crazy. I mean, did she watch the footage? How do you put out this statement after watching that footage?
Just a little crazy. I think she's telling us how she really feels and how, unfortunately, a big chunk of society really feels. If you view the world through that prism, that everything is this irredeemable social injustice that's happened since the beginning of time, then everything fits into that. And they do not look at it as what this individual murder, animal, demon, whatever you want to call him, was, and this poor innocent woman, Ukrainian refugee, working, as you say, doing a job and trying to take public transport to go home. That is the prism, but not the one she's going to apply. It really is evil on a different level in a moment like this to try and make the victim be the actual murderer. So it really is outrageous. And I just think the more they do that, and regular people who aren't plugged into the news so much and don't see this are now seeing it, the more unhinged people like her are going to look, and it's not going to end well for her.
Now, lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein's estate have given Congress a copy of the birthday book put together for the financier's 50th birthday, which includes an alleged letter with Donald Trump's signature that he has said doesn't exist. Democrat Robert Garcia claims Trump is lying and doing everything he can to cover up the truth. He said, "Enough of the games and lies. Release the full files now." Is this something the president will be worried about, Kosha? I mean, the Democrats were in power for, well, several years there. They could have released anything related to Epstein, and I'm pretty confident if there was anything that could put on President Trump, they would have.
For that reason, I don't think he's worried, or he would be worried, annoyed probably, because these kinds of things just, again, give oxygen to this story. He's trying to get on with the serious business, which is what we've just been talking about, plus flooding the zone with a whole host of other issues. I think everybody believes kind of what you're saying, that if there was true dirt on him, the Biden DOJ and Merrick Garland would have released it in a hot minute. So that's why none of this stuff feels believable. There's all sorts of people doing signature matches online and all that. Who knows? Even if it were true, if you wanted to give it the most charitable explanation around that, it happened in the 90s, which is well before Epstein was criminally convicted of anything. And it's so much in the dustbin of history. And the Democrats, as you say, have never talked about anybody else, some of their favorite characters from Bill Clinton to others who were much cozier with him. So I think this will go away. It's a little bit annoying, and it reminds us of the mishandling that Pam Bondi and team kind of did with the files and that publicity stunt and all of that. But I think by tomorrow it'll be in yesterday's news.
Yeah, I don't think anyone who is likely to vote for Donald Trump would give any credence to any of this. Now, let's have a look at some terrible scenes from Nepal, where at least 19 people were killed and hundreds more injured during youth-led riots over corruption and Nepal's social media bans. That seemed to be at the crux of these protests, the social media bans. Now, the majority killed were in the capital, Kathmandu, when they were fired upon by security forces. The government there, Kosha, moved last week to ban social media sites like Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, and they claimed that was necessary to stop hate speech and misinformation, but the protesters saw it as a tool for censorship. It's interesting because it sounds very familiar to some of the bans we're having instituted here, where under 16s are going to be banned from YouTube, X, Instagram, and many other sites.
Very familiar all throughout history. You see this where people in power try to control information flow and access to information. And countries like Nepal, Burma had an incident like that maybe a decade ago, and there were all these activist journalists trying to get it out on the internet, et cetera. In the day and age of the internet, it's really, really difficult for them to do that. So it's kind of like whack-a-mole, that the governments will keep doing it, but they will always find a way to get information out there. But it's bad enough if you see it in Nepal and Burma and places like that. I think what is worse is, as you mentioned here, the UK now has been in the crosshairs with this, and that's the part that's scary, that so-called nations that are supposed to be bastions of free speech are doing something that doesn't look quite too different from that, and maybe this is a little bit of a clarion call.
And using the same reasons about minimising harm, for safety reasons, for misinformation. So, yeah, the reasons given are very familiar as well.
Indeed.
Now, before you go, more political chaos in France. Emmanuel Macron is about to be looking for his fourth Prime Minister in just 12 months. This comes after French MPs toppled the government in a confidence vote. Kosha, is Europe's second largest economy in crisis?
Seems to be. You know, the fundamentals of that country, we know it's very similar to the rest of Europe and elsewhere. The immigration problem, cost of living, censorship, you know, all of those things, people, unemployment, et cetera. And then they formed this very uneasy alliance because in response to that, Marine Le Pen's party is on the rise, as are her counterparts in the rest of Europe, the populist right. And then they're forming these uneasy alliances, the rest of the parliament. So it was always going to be tenuous. Not surprising, I think, to many people that this happened. And the question is, Macron himself is losing popularity, and you know, when and how is his story going to end remains to be seen. But they'll do another snap election. This is all downstream from the snap election that he called. He made a political calculation that sort of backfired. And I think as long as those fundamentals in France remain unchanged, as they seem to be right now, this is sort of a patchwork, and it's going to keep toppling over.
Kosha Gada, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.